Hello, today's lecture is about taking portraits. Even though this is about something that is set up and is very contrived, it still falls under photojournalism. There are times when you're going to need to illustrate a story by just showing us who the people are in the story. And especially with feature stories, you want to bring life to those straightforward portraits. You want to add some character, add some pizzazz to it, so it'll look like the story itself, but in visual form. So even though we're talking about just taking a picture of a person in its simplest form, it's still about telling a story. So don't forget, when you are taking your portraits, to take some sort of story. Now, try to avoid the Sears look, where you just line the people up, and take a picture of them, or make them stand in front of a neutral background and shoot a shot. That's not really what we're talking about here. We're talking about pictures that the background helps tell the story, props help tell the story. Having certain costuming and makeup will help tell you who this person is excuse me, just by looking at the photo. So think beyond school photo. Think more of a portrait painted by a Renaissance painter. Put meaning into that painting. Take some time to put some meaning into the photo. And how you go about doing that is you need to put your subject at ease. Usually when people are having their photo taken and they know it's being taken, they're nervous. Unless you're, used to it or a model of some sort, yeah, you're a little bit uncomfortable when you're having your portrait taken. So this might take a while. This might be a process that takes an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, maybe even longer than that. Think about this more as like senior portraits than here, stand over here so I can get a mug shot. Something that is beyond just, oh yeah, apparently you went to the BMV and got your photo taken. This is a portrait that is telling, that lets you see into the person's character. And the only way to be able to do that is to get to know the subject. You can't just show up, take a few pictures, say, here, hold this, put this on, that type of thing. Well, it's not going to be who the person is. So you're going to have to spend some time with the subject, or talking to the subject's friends, talking to the writer of the story, if you're not the writer of the story, to be able to shoot that photo that tells the story of the person. And the only way to do that is to get to know the subject. Now, a lot of times when we're shooting any other type of photo, we just want to get the shot. In this case, since we can set up the shot, we really want to see the person's eyes. They are the window into the person's soul, so to speak. And when you see a portrait of a person, when you can't see their eyes, like you see their hair, or they're closing their eyes, or they're looking away, unless they have some sort of expression with them that helps tell a different story. Not being able to see the person's eyes gets a little bit creepy. So don't go for the creepy photos. And definitely try to shoot the person in a way that we get to see the front of their face. A lot of times you want to do that, portrait that shows their good side, that shows their silhouette. You don't want that. You really want to be able to look into the person's eyes. Now, all that being said, you don't want to be a little too heavy-handed when you go into a portrait shooting session. Going in there and saying, all right, do this, do that. Let the person be themselves, and that'll help you get into the soul of the person, being able to tell a story from the person's point of view if you aren't too heavy-handed. Of course, give ideas, let them give you feedback, don't let them take over the shoot, but don't be too forceful. It tends not to work. And of course, always use light to your advantage. Remember, photography again is writing with light. So if you have to go outside and shoot with natural light, go outside and shoot with natural light. If you happen to catch the magic hours of when the first sun comes up, no, there's only one sun, but when the sun first comes up and when the sun is going down, it gives a nice glow that you can't get any other time of day. So maybe you schedule that portrait session at that time of day. Also, let's say you're inside and the person has a window that's bringing in natural light. Well, have them stand by that and use that light to your advantage instead of putting them in front of the window and having the picture backlit so you can't see who the person is. So always be thinking about light when you're taking pictures, and since you do have time to set up the shot with portraits, think about the light, where it's coming in, and maybe even how you can add your own light. Bring in lamps, bring in reflectors to reflect light, anything that'll help bring the subject more into view. More light is always better. You may want to try to do some of those artsy types of photos where the portrait is only taken in candlelight. Definitely think about that beforehand. Candlelight is very difficult to shoot. You don't have much light, obviously, but that light doesn't go too far, and it's a nice light, but it also is very hard in respects of shadows. So you're going to get shadows there, and you're going to have to set your ISO to different settings to see which one works the best, because the ISO is all about the sensitivity of the camera to light. If you go up to like 800, it might be too grainy. 400, it might be too slow and won't be able to capture the image. So you're going to have to play around there a little bit with the ISO. And anything that is in a low light situation, you want to have a long shutter speed, and that always opens up the opportunity for the photo to be blurred. So if the subject is really good at being still, all right, use the slow shutter speed. But if you're doing a portrait of, say, a child, you're not going to get that shot. So think about lighting, think about how you want to have it lit, and don't be afraid to try things. All right, some tips. You can use backgrounds to your advantage. Let's say this person is known for their art. Take pictures of them with their art in the background, or their studio in the background, or you may want to take them outside and just look at different things in their environment, like a wall or a garden, that can help tell the story of this person. I actually have a friend who got a whole master's degree by taking pictures of musicians just in the studio holding their instrument. I don't know how that's master worthy, but you can see how having them in the studio added to that story and added to the portrait. Now, once again, that being said, when the background gets too busy, there's too much to look at, sometimes it'll be overwhelming. So you don't want to overwhelm the picture. You still want to have that clear center of interest. So think about it, look at it, and if it's too busy, take things out. If you feel comfortable with the amount of objects in the background, go with it too. And also remember, you can always adjust depth of field by opening up the aperture. If you open up the aperture a lot, what will be in focus is what you put in focus, hopefully the subject, and the background will kind of get blurred out, and that way you can still have a lot of stuff in the background that still adds to the story, but doesn't overwhelm the subject themselves. Props, just mentioned the friend I had at Texas that would have a musician with their instrument. That's an appropriate type of prop. If the person is a painter, you have them holding paintbrushes. If the person is an auto mechanic, you might have them with tools. It might be a little cliched, but it adds to the story. But don't get silly about it. Sometimes photographers will go a little weird. Nicest way of putting it is, instead of having the auto mechanic holding their tools, oh, could you put it on your head and wear it as a hat? Avoid that type of silliness, unless that's the person's personality. But if that comes around, have it come from the subject, not from you. And the face of the person you're taking the portrait of should always be the center of interest, not something in the background, not the prop, not any other objects that are in the photo. It should always be the person you're taking the portrait of. Should you pose photos? Of course you can pose photos with portraits, but sometimes while you're taking those portraits, you want to take some pictures while they're not posing or after they've posed. That way you kind of get that candid shot, the relaxed look. And you can shoot as many photos as you want. SD cards are fairly cheap. And look at them later and decide, this candid shot's good, or this really posed picture really says what I'm trying to say with this photo. Group portraits. If possible, avoid them. The reason being is they really don't have a clear center of interest because there's multiple people. When you get a group together and you try to take photos, they always think it's the team portrait. The sorority girls want to do their arms on their legs. They want to flash the peace sign. They want to build a pyramid. It gets weird, and try to bring some class to it. And there are other ways to get a picture of a group that isn't a group photo. For example, candid. Get them doing what they normally do. Or do a collage of portraits, something like that. But for the most part, group portraits are a bad idea. Try to use soft light. This way, it'll be less like the school photo, the sports photo, the team photo. By just changing how the lighting is. Go for something like a chiaroscuro lighting where they're only lit from the one side. Add depth to what is usually seen as a very two-dimensional picture. So the light will always help you if you let it. And still, always try to tell a story. Perhaps that's where you bring the props in. That's where you let them get a little goofy. Let their personalities come out if you have to take that group photo. And of course, everything else that we've mentioned since the beginning of the semester, trying to shoot from different angles, try to shoot through things, over things, under things, show up early, stay late, have a clear center of interest. All those things will help your group portrait be a good portrait. And for your portrait assignment, you are to find someone, hopefully someone interesting, and people are inherently interesting, and take a portrait of them. I'm going to put some links up to a couple of pages full of portrait examples that I like. Look at those first, and then take photos of this person, and pick out the 4 best. Give me cut lines for all 4, and upload them for the portrait assignment. Some questions that usually come up with the portrait assignment are, can it be the same person over and over again? Yes, it can. Does it have to be someone famous? No, it could just be someone in your life. Can it be my cat or dog? If you want to get a low grade, sure, take a picture of your cat and dog. They usually don't have much of a story to tell because they're an animal. So people, try to give me people. Interesting people doing interesting things from interesting angles. Remember that from the beginning of the semester. That is always going to be stronger than any other type of portrait out there. So that's the assignment, and I look forward to seeing it.